Hey, welcome back, ladies and gents. I'm your undisputed host, Lessen, with Time for RPGs, and this is my kind of small explanation on early combat for The Witcher 2 on your local PC. So let's get started. So to start off, let me say that The Witcher 2 combat is hard. It is hard, man. There have been so many people complaining about this game. I mean, there's a lot of people who have been looking forward to this game, and now they're bitching about how hard the combat is, even on normal. I'm not gonna lie and say that the combat is disgustingly easy and, you know, these people suck, because it is hard. But I will say that there is just a slight learning curve, and the combat is definitely doable if you know, can live through the beginning trial and error. So the video that I have up here that I'm showing you guys is showing you the prologue section of the game. I am going through a mission where I need to get to a certain area, and these guys just keep coming out of the woodwork. So I'm doing a lot of dodging and rolling, and sometimes I'm using some of my signs to fight, and I can't even lie, man, I died so many times on this part because there is like really no tutorial. They give you little pop-up tip boxes that tell you, you know, when you use skills, what they do, but they don't hold your hand. Which is funny because I was talking about this a while back in one of my other videos about how so many games nowadays hold a player's hand, a gamer's hand when they start the game, and this game doesn't really do that. They just kind of throw you in the prologue and you are on your own. You can't, as far as like starting off, as far as like sword combat goes, fighting one-on-one enemies is easy. I mean, granted, you can't stand there and just mash the button and keep going, you know, toe-to-toe with the enemy. You have to move around. You have to parry some of their attacks and then go back in for the hit like I'm about to do right here. If you fight more than 3 enemies, you're gonna get your ass handed to you, I guarantee. Especially in the early parts of the game. Maybe in later parts of the game when you have more skills available to you, you can, you know, stand there and take the hits, but in the early part you have to move around and keep dodging, especially when you're fighting more than 2 enemies. So I was trying to learn how to actually like dodge and not play this like an action RPG, because this game requires you to be a little bit more strategic and move around and stuff, and it has those RPG mechanics where even if you hit a guy, sometimes it doesn't do a lot of damage. But I think the combat's pretty realistic, like you're about to see right here. I think there's like 4 guys running after me, and I have to run away, and I start using signs like I guess you pronounce that Yrden, and it stuns one opponent. So now I can fight these 2 guys, but there's a big armored guy, right? And the only attacks that you have for your sword combat in the very beginning is the hard and the fast. The hard attacks, they are really slow as far as the animation is concerned, so you have to, you know, kind of use them at your discretion, and you have to get used to the speed at which they flow. They're good for armored enemies. They're also good for really big enemies. Oh, look at this. That's a finisher. Where was I? They're good for big enemies, armored enemies, and they're good for enemies with shields. The light attacks are good for... Oh, another finisher. The light attacks are good for enemies who don't have a lot of armor on. You can chain the attacks together, but you have to get used to how the animations play out. There is no indicator that tells you when you should do the next attack. You just have to play the game and get used to Geralt, pretty much. So that's it as far as swordsmanship. I did a lot of dodging. As you can see, I'm getting my ass handed to me just by this one guy. I had to keep moving around him because of his freaking shield. Sometimes you can get through the shield in the front like I'm doing now, but other times it just all of a sudden blocks, so you have to keep moving around him. Not only that, they love to use arrows in this game. So if for some reason you're far away from a guy and you're taking damage, you're probably getting shot by an arrow, which was happening a lot to me because there's another guy over here. So moving on to signs, as you can see, I keep switching signs and I keep slowing down time. That's like a mini pause menu. It doesn't stop the combat, it just slows down time, so you can pick a new item or a new sign to use. Signs are your magic. If you look in the top left hand corner, the 2 bars underneath your health, which is the red bar, is how you use signs. You can get more vigor, that's what it's called, and vigor is actually used for your signs and your parry, which is why I don't do a lot of parrying, which is how you block, because it takes vigor. I just dodge and move out of the way, it's so much more easier. The different signs that you can use are the one that can charm an enemy. There's the one that reduces damage. There's one that does fire damage, which incinerates an opponent, and that actually, once you level it up more, it does more damage in like an area effect kind of deal. There's the one that I put on the ground like now, that stuns and immobilizes enemies. That gets stronger too. You can actually turn it into like a wall type of energy attack where enemies can't get past, or if they walk past they take damage. There's Ard, which is like a stun, but it also blows enemies back and it also destroys obstacles. And I can't remember what the other one is if I missed any. But those are your basic signs, and that's how you use your magic. Obviously you can raise those up to help you in combat. And I would actually suggest that. I'm playing the game on medium, and I still take a lot of damage, but I keep switching signs to make things easier. I don't really use Igni a lot because it seems like it's pretty weak in the beginning of the game. But Ard, the blue one that immobilizes people, that one has gotten me a lot of finishers, which you'll see in a second. The finishers are pretty freaking awesome when you stun an opponent like that. It doesn't happen all the time. I think it's, I don't know, sometimes you get lucky, those RPG mechanics. I do know that you can get adrenaline in this game, and you can do specific attacks depending on how much adrenaline you have, but I don't think I've gotten to that part of the game yet. There's like these super special skills that you get that go underneath your vigor bar, which turns into the adrenaline bar after you attack your enemy a specific amount of times, or depending on certain situations, and you can do special things like slow down time or do group attacks, which would really help against more than 2 enemies, things of that nature. So like I said, this is early combat, that's why I keep dodging, running around. I'm not staying in enemies' faces too long, I'm just trying to dodge. I had to, man, like I said, I can't stress how much I died in this first part of the game. It took me a while to get this recording to where I didn't die a lot, and this is only just one part of it. I think the prologue is split up into like 3 or 4 different parts. If you look around on forums, if you're playing this game, the Trial by Fire, people were bitching about that, how many times they die on that, and I actually thought that was pretty easy. You just have to use Quen, one of your signs, to reduce the damage you take from the fire, and just run, keep moving. But that's another story for another day. Right now we're trying to make it to the top of this tower, and I'm about to go into another room with a bunch of enemies. There's a really big guy in there. There's a lot of guys, and I actually used the King's Men here to help me make this easier. But like I said, keep using your signs, dodge around a lot. Get used to Geralt's animations, because that is the key to the swordsmanship or whatever. I love opening with a hard attack, and then from there, once he swings his sword all the way to the left, I go straight into a light, and you can chain it for a really long time, as long as nobody else hits you, or as long as the guy doesn't come out of it. You just have to keep watching. Oh, that's what I forgot to mention. You see the little lock-on thing that keeps showing up over enemies? I'm not locking on anybody. That automatically shows up. There is a lock-on function, but I think it works against you if you use it, because you can't freely switch in between enemies, and you need to be able to do that on the fly. So I would probably suggest not using that. I didn't use it. I just moved my mouse so fast to the next enemy and kept rolling that I was able to attack them. As long as you're close enough, he'll start hitting them, and then you can chain your attacks. And other things that I did to make combat easier, I hid behind stuff. It was ridiculous. And the next part coming up, after I get all this stuff on the ground, I will talk briefly about the alchemy portion, which is helpful, but if you have the game on medium, I don't think it's really required. You could probably beat the game with just swordsmanship and your signs, so stay tuned for that.